Life is a quest for logic and reason. It is a quest to find balance between science and faith. Life is a quest for knowledge and understanding. But most importantly, it's a quest for personal discovery. Whatever your quest, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Welcome to Quest. Hi, Sadie. Welcome to the Quest podcast.
Hey, Todd. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. We're at the beginning of season 8. You're one of my first interviews in the new season. And I've actually had you on a sister podcast that I produced called Danceology, where you came on and talked to Edita. And I was there for that interview and I loved it. And I was like, I've got to have her on my podcast.
I'm so honored to be here. I loved that podcast. Edita was amazing. I loved her interview style. And yeah, you guys made a great team.
I've from time to time had dancers on my podcast. I think my listeners, most of my listeners know I've run some successful dance education companies in the past. And when I made Danceology, all the dancers went to that one. So I haven't had one on in a long time. But I'm always fascinated by dancers and how their careers got started and what drew them to it. And many dancers have just interesting stories from around the world. You are a Middle Eastern dancer, a belly dancer. So I'm very excited to dig into this. So let's just go ahead and jump off with the first question. What first drew you to belly dance? When did you realize this would become your life's work?
Well, this is still a question I'm still trying to dissect and understand myself. Apparently, I asked my mom if I could be a belly dancer for Halloween when I was 12. Wow. And I remember her reaction when I asked her that. She was like, what the heck? Like, where would I even get a costume? She made all my costumes for Halloween. So, that was kind of a deep dive. But then we've talked about that. Like, where did I get that idea from? I grew up, had to be like the late 80s in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, of all places. And, 12 years old, neither of us can piece together where the inspiration would have come from. But I think I may have found a link, and I can share that link. I could share what it might have been. I just recently took my son to House on a Rock in Wisconsin. I don't know if you've ever heard of this place. It's incredible. Anybody doing a road trip through Wisconsin, you have to go to House on a Rock. Most people do it as a day trip from Wisconsin Dells. Wisconsin Dells is like our big,
I know that,
water theme parks. It's super cool. I love it there. Take my son there every year, but I took him to Wisconsin Dells a year ago, and it's just like this collection of oddities, a museum. This guy built a house and turned the whole house into a museum. The architecture is really interesting, and then all the weird things that he has built into this house. And there's a carousel in one room, like this huge, crazy carousel. And then there's a float. It's like he brought this parade float into the house. And on the parade float, I'm looking, there's all these like naked mannequins and just really cool statue thingies. And I'm going, what weird stuff for me to have seen when I was little, because my mom took me there when I was little too. And then I turned the corner of the float, and this whole section of female mannequins in belly dance costumes.
Wow.
And I just died for a moment. I was like, what the heck? I was like, is this it? Is this where it all started, on some weird museum on a weird float and some guy's weird imagination? Like, had all these belly dance costumes, because it would have been about the time frame that I also wanted to be a belly dancer for Halloween. So, you just never know how these things enter your psyche or where they get in from. Where the inspiration, I don't know if I saw something on like a late night TV show when I was little, or if, some people say maybe it was a past life thing, who knows? So that's the beginning of the story, is I was a belly dancer for Halloween. A flash forward a few years later, I was 18 years old and heard an advertisement while I was driving my car for belly dancing on the radio. And I literally like skid my car off the side of the road and was like, what did I just hear? What about belly dancing? And, again, this had to be, I don't know, this was like 1996. So I had to go home and look in the phone book, and I just opened up the phone book to dance. And I literally called every single person offering belly dance in the phone book and immediately started classes, and that was it. The rest was history. I never stopped.
I think I probably first heard of you in the early 2000s. I don't remember exactly what year. I want to say maybe 2004 or so. And you were like a hot prospect. Like you were all over the place. So to go from like 1996, just learning belly dance, to just the turn of the century, what happened? What was so explosive about your rise to fame? I mean, most people struggle to have a little mom and pop shop and get students to come in, and you're filling auditoriums very quickly.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, honestly, the whole thing it was just like kind of one of those moments where the timing was just so perfect for everything. That's just such a big part of it. The timing, I remember I was probably about 5 years into my dance training, and I went to Turkey in 2003. And that changed everything for me. I went on a tour with one of my teachers. And of course, I'm learning everything here in the United States, piecing together this, incredible cultural dance that, like, you're hearing stuff about the culture here, and you're hearing about Egypt, and you're hearing about Lebanon and Turkey and the Mediterranean and the Romani and all this stuff that it's just like, it's like trying to learn Western Civ without having ever really traveled, And so then I went to Turkey, and it was just like everything changed for me. I got to see it in context, real Romani dancers dancing with music, Oriental belly dancers dancing on stage live to the music, and all the things started clicking. And I was like, this is the most powerful expression of femininity I have ever seen, and I want everything to do with it. It was very powerful for me when I was in the classes in the US, but some elements were missing until I went to Turkey in 2003, and I came back. I bought like 6 costumes there, came back, and I was like, I'm so ready to do this. And I signed up to go to like several festivals in the United States, mostly in California. And pretty much my first big outing in California at a festival called Rakasa, I got off the stage, and all these people were like, who are you? Where are you from? Do you want to like be on my DVD? Do you want to like help us formulate a CD? Do you want to like dance? And I was like, hold on, I'm just a student. I was still kind of just getting my feet wet. And it was literally like my first big hurrah out, where I don't know, the timing was right. I guess they were ready for the next generation or the next person.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I remember, Belly Dance Superstars was a really big traveling show, and it had kind of the who's who of like the best belly dancers, in the world. And I had some of these women teach in my my dance education companies. And that, I mean, really what was Miles Copeland produced that show, who worked with the band The Police and a number of other musicians and bands. And he really wanted to create like his own version of like Riverdance, except with belly dance. And that's what he was building. And that went for a couple years, and they put some music out and things like that. So there was really a pinnacle, I think, like a peak of, I think like any dance, like there's a time frame for it, when it's popular, and then it sort of wanes, and then popularity comes back, and then it wanes. And we're seeing that right now with Irish step dance. In fact, what they call Riverdance now is the new generation, because it's the first time that enough time has spanned from when Riverdance started to where now there's a second generation of kids that are old enough to perform. So It's like, wow, is Riverdance like we're that old now that like there's a whole group of kids that are like 23 and 24 that can perform, that grew up seeing the show. So it's really like the second generation of Riverdance. So I think it's really fascinating. But for 10 years, Riverdance wasn't as popular, because it's sort of like we've seen that. And now it's sort of coming around a second time. So I think we see this a lot with different styles of dance, coming and going. But whatever was going on, I remember having several of those women teaching for me, and it was still like you were inaccessible. You were so popular. Like I could never get to you to have you come teach for me, because you were already doing so well on your own. We didn't meet until years later. So it's funny. It's, but hey, everything happens for a reason. There's a time and place for everything. I want to kind of talk about, my interpretation of your style. I think, watching you dance, your style kind of blends deep traditional roots with sort of a modern expression. I think that's one of the things that I really like about what you do. So I want to know, like, how do you honor tradition while still evolving as an artist?
I think it's just always wanting to understand, who were the people who created this dance and why? What was their motivation? Because I know what my motivation is, and I know the things that I feel when I'm dancing. And it's kind of cool to work with and have teachers and colleagues from the culture that our stories line up. The journey of a woman through dance lines up cross-culturally, and I think that's so fascinating to me. Um, there's kind of this universality, this human element to dance, period, that I think belongs to everybody. But then, of course, the way that different cultures put their unique stamp and signature onto a dance form. We can see a lot of feminine dances from around the world. Like, I think Polynesian, a lot of people might have seen some Polynesian dances because a lot of people will think, oh, they're kind of similar. Like, I see in some of the moves in Polynesia, but I mean, they really have nothing to do with each other. But again, it's like this feminine expression through the dance that there's a lot of similarities. And I think that's why belly dance is so popular around the world. So the way that I try to balance those two things is just being curious about the cultural context. I stay very connected to the culture by traveling there every year and studying when I'm there or observing when I'm there in the culture, but then also staying really true to, what is it that my body wants to express, that my psyche wants to express, that my emotions want to express through the form of belly dance. And it's kind of those two things. It seems to be working so far. So, it is a journey for me though, too. It's not like I have some kind of very structured, rigid approach to it. Music has such a big role in that. It's like, what does the music call for? What does the music tell me to do?
That's actually my next question, and I'll go ahead and I'll just insert it right now. I think music is obviously one of the most powerful components of a belly dance presentation or performance. So I want to know, how do you choose your music and how does it shape the emotional story that you want to tell on stage?
Yeah, that's a little trickier because obviously in the belly dance world, music made specifically for belly dancers is, pretty small pool to choose from. I mean, we do have stuff, but it wouldn't be like going on iTunes and just finding any song that inspires
Sure.
me. My dance fits within a structure of, the traditional dance rock sharky. And so I have to kind of play within, color inside the lines of that. And so at this point, 30 years in, I've danced to a lot of the available music. And I do kind of say, oh no, we're sort of running out of music. Like, we need some more musicians to make music for dancers. But for me, being a dancer, obviously it shouldn't shock people that I'm a very body-based somatic feeler. So I just put the music on, and if I literally feel it inside my body and it makes me want to dance or it makes me feel something, especially if it gets me in a really creative vibe, like I'm starting to envision the dance that I want to create and start thinking about the costume and the lighting, like then I know it's alive already. It's already there. The elements are there. If I don't feel those things off the music, then I know like that's not going to work for me.
Right. Right. As a Western woman, how do you navigate a cultural responsibility or respect or bringing an authenticity to belly dance? What do you feel your responsibility is there? I imagine this is something that probably at one point it was like, devil woman if you're an American wanting to kind of, I think Americans have stolen so much around the world culturally. Like, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's been an evolving process, for myself. I'm lucky that I had teachers in the beginning that were always very proud to share the historical roots of the dance. And like I said, already in 2003, I did a 5-week trip to Turkey with my teacher. That was only 5 years into my dance journey, so pretty quickly on, I was very committed to to going to the place. I didn't know what I was going to learn. I didn't know what any of that meant. I just was like, yeah, take me to the place, please. One of the places. And I think that experience just enriched me so much that from that moment, I was like, this is where it's at. Like, obviously, I can learn things in the United States. I can take workshops. But there's just this deep connection that will never be able to happen outside of the culture, because that's where it developed. That's where that's the home. That's the place that it happened. And so just getting off the airplane and putting your feet in the land of Egypt, everything is dancing. Everything, you just feel all the elements. You see all the elements of nature and the people around you that have inspired that dance, and it all starts to make sense. So for me, it's really just about going there and being there. The next step is obviously learning from people of the culture, especially there in the place. And then for me, it's always about invitation. So I love to do a lot of cultural things. And it's important for me to be invited in. So, when a person invites me into the culture, then I feel like, okay, I've got the okay now. This person has entrusted me as a friend, as a possible ambassador. Like one of my teachers is a professor of in Egypt, and he has a huge, incredible story. Shout out Professor Hassan Khalil. But he gave me his blessings on so many occasions over the last 15 years. And to this point now, he's 87 years old. And, and I am one of the people that he has really entrusted with his teachings and his knowledge. And that is just such a huge honor to me. So it's just that. It's just connecting and then getting the invitation. It's kind of like they say here, you're invited to the barbecue, right?
Yeah.
In Black culture, if you get invited to the barbecue, then heck yeah, man. I've been invited to the Egyptian barbecue, so I feel pretty good.
Traveling to countries where Middle Eastern dance originated from. I don't know how many countries you've been to that can claim that, but how has your worldview changed being in those countries, meeting those people, meeting the practitioners or the masters of dance? Has that affected you?
Oh, well, I can say I'm definitely a global citizen. Like I will say that I do love living in the United States. There's so many opportunities here. I love it here. And, the U.S. kind of has the best and the worst of everything. But when you tap into what's best about the United States, there's nothing like it. I will say I never knew that the United States was a culture or had a culture until I started to travel the world, because I was like, there's no culture here. And then I started traveling and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of culture in the U.S. So in a strange way, the more that I have traveled and assimilated into other perspectives and worldviews, it has actually helped me to identify my own culture and to appreciate my own culture. I will just say to me, it's just like, we're all the same. We are so similar. It's just the way that we color. If you gave us all a coloring book, the way that we would color in the coloring book is our culture. I mean, culture is so significant and so important. I can't distill it down to that. But I mean, at the end of the day, people want love, connection, community. They want to take care of their families. Everybody just wants the same basic things in the world. Most people are good. We can't define people by all this weird political, religious crap that we see that tries to divide us, because at the end of the day, the Muslim family wants the same thing the Christian family wants. We all want the same thing. And I have really learned that. And I have to say, like, traveling around the world, I have been treated with so much kindness and hospitality that is mind-boggling to me, that people will take me into their homes and feed me and take such good care of me and really want to bestow upon me the beautiful things about their culture and leave an impression on me. And that has happened to me in so many places around the world, that it has really made me want to be like that too. And I really try to, when I'm traveling around the world, I try to think of myself as an ambassador of the United States to show people, hey, you guys see some crazy stuff on the news. We're not all like that. And by the way, if you're ever in the United States, Hit me up. I would love to host you. I would love to have you spend the night. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be like all these incredible people that have showed me so much love and kindness around the world. I want to be like that. It has really just shown me like, wow, we are all a global family. Um, it, it's amazing. I don't know what to say about it, honestly. It's almost too big to put into words. It is really, I will just say to people, if anybody wanted to make a profound change in their life, just travel. And you don't have to travel far. It could be right here within the US, going and immersing yourself into another type of a culture or just going down to Mexico, but just get out there and see the world. It's life-changing, literal life-changing.
For sure. I couldn't have said any of that any better. That was great. Um, I think belly dance seems to be very physically demanding. I don't know. I've never done it, but it seems like it would be physically demanding. What role does discipline and daily practice play in maintaining your longevity as a belly dancer? Is that important? Is it like sports? You have to practice every day to stay great, or is it just one of the do you learn it and you've got it from that point? Walk me through that.
There's definitely I believe in the whole 10,000 hour to masterhood rule. That's very accurate because when I heard about that, I tried to see if I could calculate that, and I would say that sounds about right. So I think there's this point where whenever you're learning something, you kind of put in that time and that effort to hit that, say it is 10,000 hours or somewhere around there, right? To be really good at something. Think of somebody who had to earn their PhD. It's a similar thing. I say I'm a PhD in belly dance because I've put that much time into it. Once you get to that point, it's kind of maintenance mode, and maintenance mode does not require anywhere near the same amount of caliber of, training or hardcore intensity. I mean, I have had periods in my training before I was an expert, I would say, that I was spending so much money on chiropractic and massage therapy and Rolfing. I would do the whole sessions of Rolfing because I was a hot mess. I was so messed up from training so hard because I really wanted to be the best that I could be. I don't have to do that anymore. Luckily, it's in my body. It's in my muscle memory. But what I do have to do is I have to constantly keep my body supple, limber, which means I have to be doing something. I have to be doing yoga, other types of fitness. Now that I'm 48, I have to be lifting weights. I'm really big into learning about how does a woman need to care for her body as she ages, which is completely different from the way a woman needs to care for herself in her 20s. So, shout out Dr. Stacy Sims. I'm on her program and I'm learning all the things that women of my age need to learn about hormonal health and bone health and brain health. And so that stuff becomes really important. But as long as I stay kind of consistent, 4 days a week, working out, doing yoga, and then staying on my practice through teaching and doing my choreographies that I do for, every tour season, I have to come up with a handful of choreos for myself and my students. And that's enough to keep me not just, baseline good at what I do, but also keeps me growing because I'm, the choreographic process is always like, what do I want to do next? What's the next thing? How do I want to grow a little bit, but still stay me? So I'm in a good place right now where I feel really happy with how much it takes to continue doing what I'm doing, but not training the way I was, that I need to be doing Rolfing 3 days a week and chiropractic and all that stuff.
We were talking about this before the interview about how belly dance is one of the few dances that you can do at virtually any age. We were saying before the interview that you just, in ballet in particular, your career is over at 30. Your body is wrecked. There's no more you can do. And I think I mentioned sports as well. There's very few sports that you can do for life, but how would you frame that as an activity for life? Belly dance is, regardless of body type or age, it really is something you can do very young or very old. Is that accurate?
100% accurate. And that is one of my favorite things to share with people, new students coming in. I'm like, hey, dancers, this is something you can do the rest of your life. And it's going to, the return on investment for learning how to belly dance is literally astronomical if you were to write it all out. So Yes. And for me, my body in some ways feels more supple and more responsive and more amazing than it did in my 20s. Of course, when we're in our 20s, we're beasts and we're like gods and goddesses and we can do anything. You can't always do that as you age, but belly dance doesn't require that, right? I've listened to some your podcasts with your ice skaters and these young ladies that age out by the time they're 25 because, it's just so difficult. That's not a reality for us in belly dance, because part of what enriches the experience of watching a belly dancer is the soul that she brings or he brings to the stage, which really comes with age and experience. There's certain, some of the songs that we like to dance to in Rock Sharky belly dance would be their kind of legendary Kulsum. This music is so reverent to the Egyptian people. No dancer would ever dare to dance on this music unless you were so confident in your skills as a dancer, but also cultural competency and complete command to tap into your emotions and translate them through a dance. So this is kind of like something for me that I'm like, wow, there's pieces of that music that I dance to for my own enjoyment that I would never dare to dance on stage yet because I don't feel like I've had enough life experience to do that. And it gives me a lot of excitement to know that in like 10 or 15 years, I could get on that stage and finally embody that. That's cool to me.
Yeah. It might be at the nursing home when you're 88 teaching like the other ladies.
Yeah. And I would love that. I would love to make all my peers at the nursing home cry with my performance of Kulsum.
Just jokes. Belly dance has often been described as a sacred or ancestral language of the body. Mm-hmm. Do you believe there's a spiritual dimension of dance, and in Middle Eastern dance in particular?
100%. It's not talked about very often, which I find quite bizarre because the feelings, and for me, the kind of teacher I am, and my students tell me this, they're always like, Sadie, you're one of the only people who talks about this. Like, I love that you honor the spiritual journey that you can go on with dance and with belly dance. And, I'm not sure why we don't talk about it more. I haven't quite figured that one out. It seems like there's two camps. There's kind of the camp of like, let's stay within the cultural context code and not say anything else that we don't have definitive proof for, because there are people who will be like, belly dance evolved for helping women during childbirth. Now, that is a really interesting fantasy. And, I will say that in my own childbirth, it did seem to help me. That's an anecdotal story of mine. And we don't have any written definitive proof that it was created for childbirth, although we do have some oral tradition and some Arabic women who have written books and stories that no, actually it is. But I think there's this fear of maybe leading too much with fantasy, fetishizing the dance and the culture and stuff like that. So I understand that, but there absolutely on the human level is a spiritual component to the dance. And one story I'll share is, at some point in my dancing, I realized the energy work I was doing on my body and like profound changes about my experience of living in my body. For a very long time, I lived in my head, and, you look out your face, you look out your eyes, and that's how you experience the world. And I'll never forget the day that all of a sudden I was walking and I was like connecting with people and smiling, and I was just having such a beautiful day. And I just for a minute was like, whoa, I'm like seeing through my chest, like through my heart, like it felt like my eyes were in my heart, literally. And then I was like, it got me on this really incredible journey of, ooh, what is it like to hold my awareness in different parts of my body? What is it like to respond to the world from another awareness other than just my mental, intellectual head? What is it like to respond from my heart? The heart chakra stuff. So then you start going into all these incredible ancient practices like Ayurveda and, the The Chinese had it as well. And I really believe personally that belly dance as a practice was a way for women to have autonomy and spiritual control over their body. Now, again, I can't prove that, but that's what I feel in my body. That's what's true for me. And a lot of women who are really deep into the practice as well. And my colleagues, when we have these conversations, we're all kind of sharing similar stuff. So when I started to learn Qigong and Tai Chi, I was like, this is what I do. This is what I've been knowing that I do. This is what I've been feeling that I do, but I didn't have the words to put to it. And then Qigong and Tai Chi taught me, oh, there is already like practices from other cultures who have done this energy work. Shortly after that, I had a Tai Chi practitioner who's actually one of my teachers now, came up to me after my show and goes, this might sound really weird, but I don't know if you know this, but you're a Qigong master. I was like, tell me more. And I take classes with him. The funny thing is he takes classes with me to improve his golf swing. So he said a combination of Qigong and belly dance has helped him with his golf swing. And he teaches classes at his country club. And I've been there a few times and I meet his students. They're all there to improve their golf swing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm just kind of winging this off the top of my head. Belly dance is about 6,000 years old. Is that right?
We don't know. My professor would say yes, because he says it absolutely comes from Pharaonic Egypt. And then also we know that like the temple dancers in ancient India, and there's crossover there with their classical ancient dances. So it could be. I think if anybody really wanted to go down that rabbit hole, like a researcher, I think they would be able to find evidence of that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at least 5,000 years old. I think you're in the safe zone to say 5,000 to 6,000 years old. I think it's pushing it a little to think beyond that. But classical Indian dance, things like that, also very old, but also very spiritual. So classical Indian dance, all the variations that come from that, it's a lot of worship dance is what it was. I've always thought of Middle Eastern dance as something similar. But like many cultural dances, they become, there's certainly the performance aspect of it that you get. A lot of dance you don't see. So I will say this, if you go back to Native Americans, whether they're Native Americans of North America, they're Native Americans of Australia, there's a lot of like Native American dances that are very spiritual. It's chanting, it's rhythmic, it's dance, it's praying to a rain god, that's what it is, right? So a lot of that evolved with very, very early man. Dance you could go back to very early man, when it comes to dance, right? And certainly there's forms of dance like ballet that are very old, but not as old as some of these that we're talking about. And some are more, I think a lot of dance evolves with kind of the political climate of the world, the financial climate of the world. I always talk about this a lot, that a lot of people don't realize where dances like the Charleston came from. A lot of the early, the Lindy Hops, those early swing dances, like America was in a Great Depression. And it was bad all over. No one had anything. And yet the most vibrant dances that we ever had in America came out of that time frame. So it's a healing method for a culture. So you see lots of things like that. You see why and how tap came to be in America, what it evolved from European percussive tap styles of dances, Irish step, Highlands dance, clogging, all that stuff came to America with immigrants. Tap developed in America as a result of that. Hoofing became sort of the black portion of what tap dancing would become. And that's something very like post-slavery in America. So there's this really interesting tree of where dance evolved from, which I think is really fascinating. So it does come from the evolution of people, migrating to new areas. It does come from early man. It does come from a spiritual aspect. It does come from a political, it's crazy where it all comes from. Todd's rant's over. Sorry. Take your time, Sadie. It's your interview.
True.
But I always,
all true. And it's, I also just want to say thank you for doing the deep dive on belly dance, because it's kind of one of the left off to the side dances. It's like the redheaded stepchild of dance. Like most people, what is that? But it's so profound, and you're absolutely right. And belly dance is exactly the same. And when we see the political climate in the Middle East, and especially in Egypt, it dictates what's happening with the dance. And this has been going on for so long to me that again, it's just absolutely astounding to me that this dance has survived as long as it has. It's very important to the people who have kept it alive, that they've kept it alive, but it's also been such a source of joy, such a powerful source of joy for women forever, that they just kept passing this down to their daughters. And that to me is like, gives me the goosebumps just to think that, right? Like, it cost you nothing in the darkest of times to grab the hands of your little girl and your husband or your brother's playing the drum, and you guys are bringing that joy into your lives through dance, and you're elevating the dark cloud just through music and dance. And I think that's why it continues to be such an important relic of human history that will just never die. It'll evolve and change.
You have to historically look at something like that. Like, it's not lost on me the importance of that civilization. Like, if you go back to the earliest civilizations, you have to look at what the Egyptians did for their society. Like, they had massive advancements in technology. Like, so you have to look at early civilizations. You see that in India. You even see that, to a great deal, you see that with the Greeks and the Romans. I mean, this was the seat of philosophy in Greece. It was the smartest people in the world from there. Like, in Rome, you had architecture, you had invention, you had highways, you had monetary systems. Like, you have to go back and look at the seat of power in the world at that time. And you're looking at, a 3-year time frame, a 3,000 year time frame, where all those civilizations were the peak civilizations of the world, if you think about it that way. So you have to look at the other stuff that they developed, such as a style, a system of dance. It's just as important as how they might have made the pyramids, in my opinion.
They identified the muses. I love that, that it's like the muses of the arts and creativity and dance.
And that's a Greek thing, right? Like, that's a Greek thing.
And that just tells you also that they understood. It's like a stream of consciousness. What is this stream of consciousness that humans tap into when we are in that creative zone, or we want to be a part of, we it's not even that we want to be, it's just really a birthright to all of us. I mean, not everybody loves to dance, but you almost can't help but be infected sometimes, even if you got your back up on the wall and you're in the club and everybody's dancing, you got a little bop going on somewhere, So all babies dance. That's the funniest thing. When I used to dance in the club, like nightclubs and restaurants and weddings, like the little babies, the little kiddos are my biggest fans,
Yeah.
For all the stereotypes that come with belly dance and the weird taboos.
Well, let's dig into that. That's the next part of this. Let's get a little controversial.
Let's do it.
The female body has historically been both celebrated and controlled. How does belly dance function for you as an act of, reclamation or resistance to this?
Gosh, where to even dive into that? Which part of the pool to dive in on that one? I mean, just the personal practice of it has been so healing to me, to helping me be able to embody and express my femininity without anybody else's expectations on it. Now, of course, even in belly dance, we have an ideal standard of beauty, and, Egyptians have their ideal standards of beauty and stuff like that. But outside of all of that, it's like belly dance is this expression to look in the mirror or not, or just dance, and to be able to say, wow, I'm doing something that feels really good in my body, and I feel really beautiful doing it. If you're in front of a mirror, you're probably at some point going to even be like, wow, that was really pretty, that thing that I just did. So it's kind of like this new journey of, that's the thing I've loved about belly dance. When I started in the late 90s, it really was you would see so much diversity in body shapes, body types. And that was the thing that I really loved about it, because you could see a woman platforming herself, representing the dance in a shape, a color that you don't see normally in the magazines or on the TVs or whatever. And you would be able to appreciate it and be like, oh my God, what a stunning woman. And then that also makes you love yourself more, because you're like, yeah, I don't really fit into the box either, but I still feel really sexy. I still feel really beautiful. I still get attention, even though, I'm not, I don't know, at the time, maybe it was Madonna or something. I don't know, the pinnacles of beauty. Most women don't fall into those standards of beauty, but we are all so beautiful, and we do still manage to procreate and find husbands and partners and make babies, and people still find us desirable. And so I just love that belly dance kind of helps women find that and tap into that. Like, okay, that's one version of beauty, right? You go around the world, you go to Korea, you go to Africa, you're going to see a different standard of beauty everywhere you go. And so belly dance kind of allows us to say, hey, let's celebrate what we're working with. It's like a devotional to yourself. It's a ritual to remember your womanhood, I guess, and celebrate it and decorate it and however you want, and that's what I do all the time.
When we would have our dance workshops, I would often, especially in the early days of the dance education companies, I would interview the practitioners, and any that had any experience, a lot of women described belly dance as a path back to themselves. And I always thought that was an interesting way of like looking at it, that whatever connection that they got from that, I always thought that was an interesting quote that I would hear often.
I love that. And it's true. I can confirm that from my students. My favorite stories are the ones where I'll have a student come in and will share with me something like, you know what? I'm so ashamed of my belly, but I'm here because my goal is to be able to put my sports bra on and bare my belly and dance in front of the mirror and not be ashamed. And 6 weeks into the course, her belly's out, she's laughing, she's having a great time. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's like, love yourself. I mean, these are the meat suits we were born into. We can only do the best that we could do with that. I mean, unless you're rich and you want to do surgeries and stuff now, you could do that too. But
right.
In the meantime, there's belly dance.
Belly dance is often sexualized by outsiders that don't understand it. And it's had a pretty bad reputation around the world, and particularly in America, over different decades. From a feminist perspective, how do you differentiate sensuality and sexuality and the power that you have with belly dance on your terms? Or how do you address people that just think it's a sleazy style of dance? They just misunderstood. They don't get it.
I just don't even entertain it. It's just kind of like, okay, not only do you not get it, you're not even curious to know my experience and what it means to me. You just want to label that already. So I don't even need to associate with you, because that's just ignorance, and we're not going to get anywhere with that. Yeah. So to me, I'm not the kind of person who's going to be out here shouting like, you don't know what I'm doing, and it's just like, whatever, just the proof is in the pudding. Watch my dance, and that's the thing. I can have an audience of people who watch my dance, and everybody is going to have because at the end of the day, it's all a projection, right? Whatever a person projects onto me is really just a reflection of them.
Yeah.
So I know what my dance means for me. I know what it has done for me. I know what it's done for my students. I know what it's done for the people who, feel something when they watch me, and they tell that to me. And that's really it. For me, that's all that matters. And the truth is that, belly dance or some type of, there is truth to the fact that, like, in places like Turkey and Egypt, there is some kind of cross contamination with prostitution and dancing, and there always has been. If we go back into the history, you can even get into like courtesans and things like that you can't really completely separate them out. But again, I mean, I kind of look at, like, I use like prayer and church as an example. Do all people who go to church, are they not, they're just, they don't sin? They're just perfect people. They don't do other things on the sidelines, you know? It's the same thing with belly dancing. Just because people are human and they're doing human things and happen to practice belly dance doesn't mean belly dance is, you know, something that isn't an art form or not to be respected.
I remember in the 80s, in particular, belly dance not being respected as a dance in America, that it was really thought to be kind of sleazy. Like it's the girl you hired at your bachelor party, came in and dressed like a belly dancer, you know, like it had a bad rap. So I was just looking up some research while you were chatting here, because I was curious when it really emerged in America, because Americans would be the ones that would take this, you know, it would be in the 80s in particular, where you had the moral majority and, you know, a very conservative country at that time. Of course, they would shit all over belly dance, right?
Yeah.
So I was looking, actually, belly dance first emerged. It's a really interesting trivia for anyone listening. It cares. We didn't see belly dance in America until 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair, which I did not know. But it didn't really become a thing in America until the 50s and the 60s, in particular in Middle Eastern nightclubs in America.
Yeah.
And then modern forms started to develop in the 70s and beyond. So once people started to really treat this as, hey, let's start to teach this, let's open up dance studios that teach it, that probably terrified all the mundanes and the straights in America in the 80s, which is probably why that was like that. But it's fascinating because if you think about that, the 50s and the 60s, it's not that old in America, you know? No. It's really not a very old dance form in America. And I think that's an interesting perspective to look at.
I had a student, she did some belly dance stuff in her PhD. She roped it in, and she actually found out that there was people performing belly dance, I think 20 to 30 years before that Chicago's World Fair, actually. So yeah, there's some interesting history. And then, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, burning the bras and the hippie culture, it was just like the perfect time again for people to just get into belly dance. It was such a powerful way for women to kind of like have something for themselves to further.
Well, also, I want to address two things there, because I think this is a really interesting point. One, what your friend said about it could have been 20 or 30 years before, that would make sense. Particularly, I would think you saw a lot of exotic things moving west in the Old West time frame in America, which that was the 1860s, the 1880s. I mean, that was when we were going west. And what you had with that was you had a lot of people coming in from the quote unquote Orient. Yeah. Not a politically correct word to use anymore, but and I would think that, you know, bringing in men and women that were potentially working as slaves at that point, you probably had a lot of entertainers, a lot of people coming to these bustling towns that are popping up all over the West. So I would think that that's probably pretty accurate. You think that's, there's something to that?
Yeah, there is. I would have to, it's been years since she shared that with me, so I'd have to ask her exactly what it was, but it was something to do with that, for sure.
I would think so. And also, you mentioned like the hippie counterculture, finding things like that. Another thing I think we have to remember is also 50s, 60s, where everyone's starting to get television. You're starting to get news from around the world. You're starting to see things that you've never seen before, like things that were maybe only written about in books. People are actually physically seeing with their own eyes. It's always interesting to me, like how many people only saw our natural wonders in America in black and white.
Wow.
Like it's a more modern generation that actually got to see things in color. Like I remember being at my grandparents' house and seeing like pictures of Yosemite and the Grand Canyon and all these things, but they're all black and white photos. Everything's black and white. Like if you saw anything in color, it was like art, where it was like color pencils or painted or something, right? Like there was no color, anything. And that's one of the most interesting things is like most people have never seen World War I or World War II in color. We see it in movies all the time, right? But it was only the tail end of World War II where color film came around. So there was really no way to depict any of that stuff outside of black and white. Like you never really knew it. So many people, there are lost generations that will never have known what some of the greatest landscapes in America ever looked like, because it only ever existed in black and white.
Well, and then the funniest thing too is like a lot of that vaudeville postcards, the Orientalism of like the Algerian and Moroccan postcards and stuff. Those are some of the most colorful places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just celebrate color, and to imagine that they only saw it in black and white.
Another facet of all of this is how many great performances have been lost to history, because for so long dance was master apprentice stuff. There was no system of notation in ballet dance. Like there's certain, like flamenco only recently in modern history has a system of notation now to mark what the steps were for particular performances.
Yeah.
So many great things have been lost to history because there was no one ever left. Nothing was ever recorded.
Yeah.
Like it literally had to be taught to someone.
It is actually, that hurts me when I think about that, because every time I go to Egypt, they're losing more, like they're down to like some of their last incredible like masters at certain instruments and dances. There's certain folk dances where like those families are done now. Once this person that's still holding it down is gone, it's over. It's gone.
It's so funny to me that people are so reliant on technology now that they just don't think about how things could be lost.
Yeah.
And it still can happen. I mean, and Broadway is a great example of that. It's sort of an unwritten rule of Broadway now. Like every performance for Broadway is recorded once by kind of the powers that be that produce the shows. But, whatever the show is, it's not being broadcast anywhere. You go and you have the live experience. It's not recorded. There's nothing for posterity anywhere. For whether you're performing on stage or you witness it in the crowd, there's no other way to see it beyond the day. Wow. Music was different. Like the works of Beethoven, there was a system of notation for music. So music has been preserved for a long time, but there are great performances in dance that will never know what they were because somebody took that to their grave. It's incredible.
It's true, because we just kind of automatically assume like, oh, I'll be able to look that up on YouTube,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fascinating. So let me ask you this, how has your relationship to aging evolved through your years of dancing, and particularly in an American culture that prioritizes youth?
Well, I would say I am so glad I'm a belly dancer for that. It has just made it's part of the journey for me. I'm super into like the evolution, the heroine's journey, the evolution of the archetype, So for me, it's kind of like the way I approach it. It's part of my journey. It's part of my destiny. And so I'm really excited for the journey. But yeah, there's no doubt that as we are going through that process, especially right now, because I am literally like on the tightrope. I mean, I could still, like, with enough makeup and I get a good night's sleep, I could still pass for like 32 or something, you know what I mean? But it's coming, it comes at you fast. And then all of a sudden you're like looking in the mirror every day, like, wait a minute, that wasn't there yesterday. Or wait,
this is an audio only podcast, which is why, because no one wants to look at me.
Aw. That's how you're very handsome, Todd. For those of you
hear that, audience?
Yes. But I have a tool. I have a tool of celebration and ritual through my dancing that for me, this is part of my journey, and I'm embracing it. And I can teach that to other women, that there's something sacred in the unfolding of our life journey. And for us to like have this arrested development of thinking we want to be 30 for the rest of our lives is just weird.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want to look the best that I can look for, for my age. But I just I follow older women. They're my role models. So I watch them so that I'm not afraid to get old. So I know that just because we get old it can actually, for most women, I've been reading these really cool psychological articles that are saying that women are psychologically evolving like at warp speed right now. It's kind of like women are straight up just like, oh yeah, hold my beer, watch me do this after 50. So I'm really excited for that. But I think it's going to take a psychological shift for a lot of women to stop admiring, being in your youth and start looking forward to what's next and what the next part of the journey can be. And that's not really our fault. This is kind of what's been handed to us.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think women need to band together and we need to start supporting each other. And, there's a lot of great guys out there. Coming back again to what we were saying before is that, in case you didn't know, older women are desirable. There's still people out here willing to hook up with older ladies and have lots of fun. And trust me, I got some older lady friends that, like, my goodness, they are having more wild fun than I could have ever imagined having in my 20s. I'm like, So just in case any woman is out here being like, oh, I'm not going to be desirable, nobody's going to want me, let's just go, that's a big hard no. That's so not true.
Sadie, we're getting to the last couple of questions, so I want to see if you have some advice for our listeners. I want to maybe make this kind of a twofold question. What advice would you give to dancers who want to pursue belly dance as a hobby, and maybe how they would want to pursue belly dance as a profession?
Oh, as a hobby, I would say fine if you can. If there's a place locally, I mean, belly dancers are in every little nook and cranny in the world. So just look up in your area if you can find a studio. I mean, I do recommend getting in person and going to a studio and finding a group, a little community, because that's where you're going to have the most fun. That's where you're going to be super motivated to keep it up, right? You're going to feel like you want to go to class every week when you have a group of friends that you're going to meet and you're dancing with. So that would be my first recommendation. And if you can't do that, I teach online. There's lots of people teaching online. Go look for some free classes on YouTube. Most rec centers actually have a belly dancer. So just get out there and go look for something on the hobbyist level. On the professional level, that's kind of hard to wrap it up in such a short thing. But I mean, put in the work, put in the 10,000 hours. I mean, that sounds daunting. Like, oh my gosh, who could do that? But you got to put in the work on the front end. Don't put the cart before the horse and be doing all this like business modeling stuff. I see people talking about, what's the business model for, and I'm like, can you dance though? Like, do you have the skill? The proof is in the pudding. Like, so put in the time to be really good at the craft. And then the rest kind of falls into place naturally. So just get so damn good at what you're trying to do with your dancing that people can't help but notice.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of falls into place. You got to have the skill.
For sure. This next question seems a little odd considering it's such an old form of dance, but what excites you most about the future of belly dance? What is the future of belly dance? Is it going somewhere? Is it just always going to be what it was?
Oof, I'm really not good at predicting the future. I'm kind of the worst at that, but I'm really excited watching young women now because they are so audacious and so comfortable in themselves in a way that it took me till my 40s to get there. And then some of my teachers are like, it took me till my 60s to get there. So we're seeing 20-year-old women just totally embracing themselves with so much confidence. I love that. I'm really excited to see where women are going to go simply because of that. But I do think there's also like people are really getting an interest in the old style. So I have a couple really young students in their 20s, and they are really captivated by the golden era dancers, just like I was. And the golden era dancers are those Egyptian belly dancers that were in Egyptian cinema and films. They're kind of the ones that started this craze all over the planet because they were in Egyptian films, which was their version of Hollywood. That's where all of this came from. And so there's a big resurgence in people wanting to just consume as much of that as they can because it's so beautiful. And it's cool to see young 20-year-old women being inspired by this golden Egyptian era style of belly dance that's, almost 100 years old now. So I do think there's always going to be that interest in the roots, and then there's also always going to be evolution. The two always kind of keep going and keep inspiring each other. So I'm just excited for it. I love the younger generation. I go and I judge competitions and I'm at the workshops and just these sweet young ladies that they're just excited and they want to celebrate themselves. And I'm so happy for them. And I'm just really excited to see what they do. They're already doing stuff that I'm like, oh my God, on my best days, I couldn't do some of that stuff, you know? So at least the bar for the technique is just continuing to go and go and go. And so who knows, it might be in the Olympics someday soon.
Yeah, it could be. We've talked a lot about dance through this entire interview, but what people probably would be surprised to know or don't know about you is you're also an entrepreneur. So you've not only built this bustling empire of belly dance, but you also put out some products. You have a hemp farm.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's true, Todd. I'm just an entrepreneur. I try to turn everything into a job, and I do that to my friends and family, and they hate it. They're like, stop turning the things I love into a job, because I'll see them do it. And I'm like, you're so good at that. You can make a business. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not like you. I don't like building businesses. So I just love that. Anytime I'm like, getting into something, I always see the potential of where it could go into some type of service to people. So, I mean, I just think of it as that sharing and community and service. And how can this is so cool, this thing I'm learning. How can I share it with others? And that's just always been a thing that I have loved to do. So yeah, I mean, during the pandemic, my mom and she retired and she has an 80-acre farm in Wisconsin. So I was like, hey, Mom, guess what you could do now that you're retired? I gave her a job and she's still doing it to this day. And she kind of has a love-hate relationship with it. She's very happy, actually, but she's not as good at entrepreneurial stuff as I am. So she gets a little overwhelmed. But we did it. We taught ourselves how to grow hemp. We grow amazing hemp. Our products are incredible. They work. And I think
tell everyone a little bit about the products.
So we're called Sandhill Hemp, and we specifically grow CBG, which is another strain of the cannabinoids that you find in a cannabis plant. It's actually the mother cannabinoid, so all the other ones grow out of that one. Up until recently, it's been very hard to harvest that because it matures so fast into the other ones, but it has incredible properties that all the other ones don't have. It hits all of your receptor sites, your CB1 and CB2 receptor sites. So meaning it will also, it's just like, it gives you a body sensation, but also can help calm and relax you. They're also doing a lot of amazing research on like cancer and different diseases that it helps with. So we farm that strain. And then we make a couple different topicals that just penetrate in and will help sore muscles and joints. So my whole family's on it. My 93-year-old grandma she's like, oh, can you bring me enough to fill up my whole bathtub and I'll just sit in it? And then we have we have a tincture and we have gummies that you can take internally as well. And I think we're going on our 4th year of sales now, and we don't do much. It's all word of mouth, and we're doing pretty well just from that. At some point, if I have time, I might be able to help my mom with trying to go bigger, but it works for now. And it's a great retirement job for her. She loves it. She's making enough money to sustain it and keep it going.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Sadie, what legacy do you hope to leave behind? Like I said, you've built this incredible, just this belly dance empire alone, the fan base that you have. What's the legacy?
Discovery, I guess, if I had to put it into one word, like discovery of yourself, going on the journey. Like, I think for me, anything I would leave behind, I would just want it to be an inspiration for somebody to go, oh my God, whatever she's feeling and experiencing in her body, I see it. I want some of that. That's what happened to me. And so I'm always just trying to embody the beauty of my journey into my performance and my dance to inspire people. And I try to put that out in my teachings as well. And hopefully that'll be part of my legacy. But I think, if I think of those golden era dancers, you just need to watch them and see the joy on their face to go, there's something here. There's something here that I need to experience. And I think that's it.
Right. That's great. What do you have coming up with workshops and performances?
Well, I'm about to be leading my tour called the Cosmic Heart Tour in Egypt. So this is kind of cool because it's not specifically dance related. I have about 6 different couples coming on this trip. Most of them are not dancers. So I do that one in the winter. And then I have my summer Egypt dance festival. So people who want to come to Egypt with me on either of those experiences, they could check that out. I do a dance and yoga and healing, health, wellness, holistic healing retreat in Costa Rica every year in November. I have my online school, Rocks Online. I will be traveling around the world here and there. People could check my schedule to see, but like I'll be going to Mexico and Europe and
you're in New York at the Belly Dance Festival up there, I think, too, right?
Yeah, there's a Belly Dance Festival 3rd week in March, I believe, in New York. So,
and you teach live streams. Like you have like a community people can join? How does that work?
So my online school, Rocks Online, any of the members, if they sign up and they're a member, the live classes are included in their membership. So not only do they have access to over 700 dance, we do all kinds of dance, not just belly dance. So we have bachata, salsa, samba, Polynesian, ballet, Afrofusion. I'm forgetting some, of course. We have yoga, we have fitness, we have belly dance, and they have access to all of those over 700 classes. Plus, as a member, they get access to all of our live streams. So it's like all included. We just keep it simple. You get a monthly or a yearly membership. Everything's included.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
How can people find you out there on social media and the interwebs?
Pretty much if you search Sadie Belly Dance, you'll find all my stuff.
Gotcha.
So I think my Instagram and my Facebook are all Sadie Belly Dance or Rocks Online, RAQS. Rocks means dance in Arabic. Those are the main ways. SadieBellyDancer.com is my website, but Sadie Belly Dance into any search engine and something will pop up.
All right. Great. Sadie, it's been a pleasure having you on. Let's do this again sometime, okay?
I'd love to. And yeah, I think my last piece of advice is just everybody move, everybody dance, everybody move and everybody dance. You don't even have to take a class to do that.
That's perfect. Those are great words to end this episode by. We'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Metacortex Publishing hopes that you've enjoyed this presentation.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please be sure to rate and review this episode. This podcast is produced by Todd Fischer and is distributed by Metacortex Publishing. This podcast is copyright. Any previously trademarked or copyright content is used by permission. Information and opinions stated in this podcast should not be construed as medical advice. Please visit the official website of Metacortex Publishing at metacortexpublishing.com or find us on social media for other unique content.